YouTube, welcome back. This is your boy JVinkshu with another video. Today we're going to be doing a different video than what I've been doing lately. It's going to be my first PC build, all the parts I got for it, and the step-by-step process that I took to build it. I'm really excited to show you guys. I'll see you guys then. Let's get started with our motherboard, Gigabyte B650 Gaming X. Now this motherboard I went with trying to stay under a budget. It is a pretty decent motherboard to start out with. It is Wi-Fi capable. It does have 3 SSD slots, 4 RAM slots, CPU, and everything you need for starting to build your PC. So let's get this out of the bag here, and so we get started. Now look at that beauty. Doesn't that look so cool? Awesome. Now let's start with our next spot. Our CPU, AMD 7800X3D. Now this is a pretty good CPU. You don't need to start with this one. You can get something a little lower or higher depending on what you want. But let's go ahead and install this. Go ahead and open up this tray with the latch. Make sure to pay attention where your arrow is pointing, because you want to make sure your CPU is pointing in the same direction. You don't want to be facing the other way. So we'll latch that on. The little plastic part should pop off if you did it right. Boom, there it is. We'll move on to the next spot by opening up the RAM slots. Our G.Skill 32 gigabytes, 2 sticks, 2x16. So make sure when you are installing these RAM sticks, you are facing them and installing them the right way. You don't want to have them the wrong way. You will mess up the sticks, or you might even mess up your motherboard. So when you do push them in there, you'll hear a little snap, and the little latches should snap back on into place, letting you know that they have been installed correctly. Alright, we'll move on to our hard drive here. Let's take out the cover. Alright, so important thing, make sure to take off the plastic where the solid state drive cover is. There's a little plastic piece there that you want to take off. So let's go ahead and start our hard drive and make sure that it's in there. You'll know when you have it in all the way. Be sure to push it down and screw in the right latch here. Make sure to screw it down so that way it's held down on its own. Some people I've seen where they just put the cover on without screwing it down. I'm not a fan of that, but to each their own. So screw that in, and then once we do that, we'll add the cover back into the spot. Can you guys tell this is my first PC build? All shaky. Alright, so make sure we have that in. Back to on top of the hard drive here, and screw it back in the same place. It's nice and set. To move on. Our DeepCool AK620 PC cooler. On this go on top of the CPU. Make sure that you guys are installing the correct adapter. I went and skipped over that part here. I went with the AMD adapter. There should probably be 2 different ones, the Intel and AMD. Make sure you select the right one depending on what kind of CPU you have. Now I'm just going ahead and skip through the adapter part, and just went ahead and here started with the thermal paste for you guys. You guys skip over the boring parts. So I went ahead and installed, put in 5 little thermal paste blobs. And then we're installing our CPU right on top. I'm going to screw that in on both sides. Make sure to get that nice and tight. You don't want it to fall apart when you have that standing up in your case. So screw both sides here, top and the bottom. Here we go. So got that all installed. We'll move on to the case here, get that ready to go. Now our case should have designated place for your motherboard, so make sure you line that up correctly and it should fall right into place. It shouldn't be that difficult for you guys. I do have 7 holes here that I have to screw in to secure in my motherboard to the case. So let's get those screwed in here. Make sure they don't have anything loose. You don't want it to fall on you when you stand up the case. Alright, so I got those 7 screws in my motherboard here. Right, our GPU, the GeForce RTX 4070 Super. That's what we went with. So to get that installed, we have to remove these 2 latches here on our case to make sure we make room to install our GPU. So by unscrewing those, we remove them and then we'll slide in our GPU right onto our motherboard. And you should hear a nice little click when you have that pushed in all the way, letting you know that you did a good job. And once you got that in, make sure to put those secure the GPU to the case so it's doesn't fall on you. So screw that in, make sure it's not too loose, it's not loose at all. You guys want everything nice and tight. So got everything installed here. So we'll move on to the next spot in our build. I went ahead and stood up the case for the next part here. MSI A750GL power supply. Now, we went ahead and went with the 16-pin PCIe cable for our GPU here, since our GPU does support it. And then we're going with the 24-pin motherboard cable. So make sure you guys are having that installed on your power supply the correct way. The pin should be facing the right way here, so they should click in once you have it in correctly. Shouldn't be too difficult to push in there. I'm sure for my 24 pin there's 2 sides to it, so I had to connect the other side there that I'm struggling with a little bit, but we'll get that in. Kind of throwing me off here because I didn't realize I had to flip the cable around to get it facing the correct way. So promise I'll figure it out here. I was like, oh, there it is. I see now. So let's push that in. There we go. So our next cable we're gonna connect here. We need power to our CPU. So we'll get that CPU cable connected. And get that pushed in. Next we'll need a couple of PCIe cables. There's one. And here comes the second. And the last will go with the SATA cable that we need for our case fans. So go ahead and push that into our case. It's the designated place for it here at the bottom. And we'll go ahead and secure that into the case with 4 or 5 screws that it provides in a designated location. So I'll get those screwed in for you guys real quick. I'll move on to the cabling. Now I did skip over the boring feeding of the cable, so I did feed my 24-pin cable through the back of the case here, and here we are connecting it to our motherboard. So it provides power. Here we are, make sure that's in all the way. Feed that cable back in to the back. We don't want it to look too messy in the front here. Now we're going to connect power to our CPU, which is located at the top left of my motherboard and case here. It was a little tight space, so it was a little difficult to get that in correctly. It's getting dark as well. Did work on this for a while, and I was pretty excited, so I wanted to finish it. So here we are, being a struggle bus, but we'll get it connected here for our CPU power. Now I just skip over all the other boring connection for you guys, and all the cable management, but here we are. That is basically all we need to build our PC. So you guys let me know what you guys think, and I'll show you guys the final result. Here we go.